Today's episode is sponsored by Your Own Keys. Buying a home is one of the biggest financial decisions you will ever make. But don't be afraid, because you deserve your own keys. If you are not sure where to start, text Your Own Keys to 704-941-0624. Again, that's 704-941-0624. And of course, always remember to get right then. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy T Danzy. You are now tuned in to Get Right Then.
Everything goes, nothing goes. Bag it and flip it, whatever. It's a DBS house. Wait for the breakdown. Perfect.
Everyone lift up, get right, get hype, head nod, bounce if you feel vibes. It's time to make move, make do whatever I got. I'ma give you, wish you a better life. Haters always checking, making sure my levels right, but I'm making sure my max is right, kilo tight. Attacking the mic, not underestimated like it's a new day. I'm broke, time to make this money right.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Get Right Then podcast. I'm your host, T Danzy, and today I have my special guest. He's been my most frequent special guest, young DJ. DJ, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, Tyler. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So today, I promised you guys this episode a couple weeks ago. Me and DJ going to talk about how we both went through the process of buying and selling our houses. What I hope is that, our experience will be very insightful for others that may be looking to do the same. I've heard a lot of people talk about, wanting to buy a home. And hopefully our story to kind of show you, not necessarily how easy it is, just really I just want our story to show that you guys can do it as well. So, DJ.
Yeah, to show that it's achievable.
Achievable, there we go. Because it's not, I ain't going to say like it's an easy thing or it's like something that everybody can do. Because I don't want to like make light of it, but it's definitely achievable. And so that's pretty much what I want to bring to the forefront with this conversation. So, DJ, I'm going to let you start because you bought yours before me. So I'm going to let you kind of start with kind of the process well, let's start with like what made you decide to do it and then kind of how you did it and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so for me, after college, I moved to South Carolina and rented an apartment. The apartment was about $1,000 a month for one bedroom. I think for me, it was just looking at how much I was spending on an apartment and saying basically I could spend the same amount of money on a house and, have my own property that eventually I could end up selling and make a profit off of.
Exactly.
But if the money kept going into an apartment, I'm basically paying somebody else, putting money in their pocket. Because basically it's real estate at the end of the day. So when you live in an apartment, there's a property manager. There's somebody that owns the complex. They the one that's getting all the money from it, pretty much. So I thought, why not have my own place where I could turn around and either eventually pay it off and rent it out, or sell it and move on to something else. So that's kind of what got the whole idea started.
Okay.
So then I started looking at it, and for me, the buying process was kind of broken down into 3 different phases. It was like the pre-search, the search phase, and then obviously the buying phase, or what I would call like the verify phase. So for me, the pre-search was kind of looking at, okay, we paying $1,000 a month for this apartment. Let's say if I want to still spend around $1,000 a month on a mortgage, how much loan or could I get, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I will say one of the biggest mistakes I made in my first home purchase was basically not looking at the full picture per se. I did, but not in as much detail as I know to look at now.
For sure.
Like all the expenses that come with owning a home.
Yeah.
So I think I looked at it as a first time home buyer, and it was like, yeah, I can afford this mortgage. That's not bad. But obviously, consciously, I was thinking about the expenses that go with a home. But I don't think I ever put a number to them because it was my first house.
Exactly.
So you can go from a 1-bedroom apartment to like a 3-bedroom home, and you don't think necessarily how much extra it's gonna cost to heat and cool the house, or I mean, I feel like you think about the other things like, okay, you got a yard, you got to cut the grass. That ain't hard, you know.
Yeah,
Buy
exactly.
$100 lawnmower or whatever. You know, I cut my own grass.
Me too. Well, I did.
And then, you know, other little things that, home insurance, you know, gonna cost more. But, that's actually included in part of the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's some of the other costs, like, well, a lot of apartments now actually have valet trash and all this other stuff. So you actually pay for trash at an apartment now.
Yeah, true.
When you really didn't used to. And then it also depends on where you live at, too.
Yeah.
So, like, I think, like, where you live at Mecklenburg, I want to say, like...
I'm Cabarrus.
Oh, yeah, you in Cabarrus.
Yeah.
I know in Mecklenburg, like, county taxes cover, like, trash pickup and stuff. But,
Okay.
like, some counties, if you want your trash picked up, you got to pay a third-party service.
Oh, okay.
So, like, where I live at, I got to pay a third-party service to pick up my trash. So that's, like, a different expense.
That's interesting. Because
And then,
I
like,
never had to.
I think some other stuff you don't really think about either is, like, your internet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna talk about cable because I don't really have an experience with that because I cut the cord a while back.
Yeah, for sure.
But internet, depending on where you live, they might only offer Spectrum or they might only offer AT&T.
Mm-hmm.
So different things like that.
Well, my comment with that, with just the internet part is, the reason I don't really usually include that in my argument is because it's the same thing with an apartment too. So that expense is something that's going to probably transfer and be the same whether you're in an apartment or in a house. So that's kind of how I feel with that. But
What I would say too, though, Tyler, is I think it's very important in this pre-search period when you're starting to buy a house, is to actually take the time to look at all that stuff.
Yeah,
like, it's
for
not
sure,
that
for
hard
sure.
to make a phone call and get an estimate. Like if you know what area, zip code you're looking at, you can kind of get an estimate on all these expenses.
Yeah, because if you're looking at something like Zillow or Redfin, you can get even like an average power and utility bill as well too. So that's very important. And like you said in that pre-search, to understand kind of where you'll be, because it's not purely, I guess that's one thing when in an apartment, it can be pure just rent that you're paying, and you have your your utilities and your cable, but it is extra stuff on that with a mortgage. So yeah, no, I agree with that. And so with me, my first crib, I was just trying to find something that was easy, like manageable, expense wise, and then just kind of calm. I think I had gotten to like a calm, be away from everybody kind of mood zone, lifestyle, whatever. So that's why I bought out in Cabarrus and everything, and it was a good deal. I got a deal. Well, I also looked and kind of guessed that it would be a growing area. So, and I think I was correct with that by when I sold. And then just kind of like the price wise, and I just made sure it was big enough for me. You know what I mean? I stopped trying to think I was supposed to buy this big family crib that was supposed to be like my dream house. I knew I think I only got approved for $190. So I knew for that, in Charlotte you could buy some decent cribs for $190, but I stopped trying to buy this like family crib and just was like, man, let's just buy something that's good enough for me. Ain't too much for me to maintain, and when I'm ready to flip it, I can and make a good profit. That was really all my goals. So yeah, that was the pre-search process, was kind of figuring out after I got approved for the 190, seeing okay, what's my range looking like what can I get, where can I buy, etc. And then it was going into looking like it, like what you said. Fortunately, like he pretty much my big brother. Devin, he had already bought a home, so he advised me through a lot of it. So talking to me about HOAs, getting the insurance, like how much all those things will cost in total. And so I'm trying to differ the difference between like buying a home and like an apartment or something. So of course you're paying all your cable, and like you said, heating the crib can be a little bit more expensive, but for the most part, the only thing I think different that you're paying stuff like HOAs, house insurance, and maybe if you paying somebody to do your lawn, if you have a home, so like a townhome, you don't have to really worry about that. But yes,
I think you should touch on that real quick. Like, so for example, like one difference would be the type of property you get, whether it's a single family home or a townhouse.
Yeah, condo. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, condos, the HOA fees are a little bit different between them. And then that's what I think you got to understand, is the HOA monthly? Is it yearly?
Yeah.
What does it include?
Exactly.
I mean, even like, what are the amenities? I mean, it's kind of similar like when you look at an apartment.
Yep.
Some people care about having certain amenities. Like, they want a weight room. They want a pool.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same thing when you're picking a house in a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And an area.
Yeah.
And all that stuff is critical. But I kind of want to go back and touch on something you mentioned that's still included in pre-search, which is, the lending aspect.
Yeah.
I want people to understand there's a big difference between being pre-approved and pre-qualified.
Okay. Yeah, break that down.
So pre-approval is like having a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
But being pre-qualified is like having a driver's permit.
Okay.
Like, you're restricted.
Oh, okay.
Pre-approval, like, you've gone through basically the credit pool. They've done your W-2s. They've verified your income.
Yeah.
The
Pay stubs and all that stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
The pre-qual is just pretty much you can call up a lender and say, my credit score is about this. I make this much. I got this much debt. And your realtor is going to want a pre-approval to even know. Like, most people won't even let you look at a house without a pre-approval.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want somebody that's serious. And if we go in there and you want to put in an offer, you're already ready to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other thing is, like, I want to debunk this notion that this misunderstanding on, like, when you get your credit pulled. Mm-hmm. So I know there's been fear. I mean, because I even heard it growing up, not even just about houses, but just, like, getting any type of loan, whether it was, like, a car loan or whatever. Like, you don't want people to shop your credit. But the reality is, when you get your credit pulled, you got 14 days to get it pulled however many times for it to count once against your credit report.
Ah, there you go.
And that's where I think we got to understand that you got to take advantage of shopping around. You shouldn't just take the first offer you get.
This is true.
Because, I mean, there's so many different opportunities out there, especially when you're a first-time home buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then first-time home buyer doesn't just mean, like, this is your first house.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a time limit. I think it's like if you haven't bought a property in the last 5 years, you can re-qualify as a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
But yeah, first-time home buyers get all types of. You can get certain loans, which allows you to put lower amounts down. I mean, depending on where you live at, you can get 100% financing.
Yeah.
With like USDA loans.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I mean, you can even get a fixer-upper loan. That's a 204K. I don't know, 20K3 loan. That's what it is.
I think I have heard of that before. I think that's what I really want to touch real quick on the 100% finances, because a lot of times people's argument is not having a down payment. But, and this wasn't even a first-time home buyer. There's a certain bank that there are certain banks. I don't want, because I'm sure my bank isn't the only one, but there are some banks that offer 100% financing for first-time home buyers, or even on your next mortgage. So I want to just like express that that's an option, because a lot of times people talk themselves out because they're like, I don't have 20,000 or whatever to put down, and that's not always necessary. So be conscious of that as well, understanding that a loan or getting a mortgage does not always require a down payment. So don't let that discourage you or make you think that you're not qualified or able to, get a loan or a mortgage. So that's very important as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because you can also qualify for down payment assistance.
Mm-hmm.
And every state has pretty much a different program. But, I mean, depending on what your income is like, you might not even be required to pay it back.
Yeah, for sure. And, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. It's important to do your research, because I looked into a lot of those. And a lot of those, the reason I didn't take advantage of them is because a lot of them were saying, like, if you do that, you have to live in that county or in that city or that property for a certain amount of years before you sell, or you have to pay the money back, et cetera, et cetera. And I just like wanted to stay away from that. And because I knew I wanted to be as flexible as possible and be able to sell. If I just wanted to sell, 2 months after I bought it, be able to, you know what I'm saying? And I think for me, it was more important to keep that flexibility. But everybody's situation is different, of course. So if you know that you want to be in that city for a certain amount of years or a certain amount of time, whatever, definitely go for it. I think that's very important.
Yeah, and just understanding what your goal is.
Exactly.
As far as buying a property, and then also understanding the different loan terms. a 20 versus a 30 versus a 15
versus an arm.
Yep. I mean, then I really want you to touch on this because you probably have more experience on this than me. But so then after all that, let's just say that's pre-search. Then you go into searching for a home, and the first thing you need is a realtor. And I want you to stress how important it is to have the right realtor.
Yeah, so I guess through the buying and selling process. So since since before I bought my first house, I had a realtor, really great guy. I mean, really, really great guy. But unfortunately, and I don't even want to say it was him because I think the timing of it was I think it was all God, to be honest. But couldn't close any deals. I mean, we put in 4 or 5 offers, and like I said, I don't want to put it on him, but with him we couldn't. We didn't get any of the offers we put in. We probably put in 4 or 5, and it was a time where the housing market was very aggressive. A lot of the homes were selling for some were like 5,000-10,000 over what they were asking. So this is like fall of 2017, not too long after I graduated. So it was very, very aggressive, but it was a frustrating process. Probably like 2 to 3 months of trying to and getting close to getting an offer accepted, etc. But we couldn't get any offers accepted during that span, and eventually, because I was trying to do it before my lease ended, and I couldn't, so I just took a break, moved back home, saved up some more money, because money was tight at the time. Well, not even money was tight, but I didn't have as much saved up as I wanted to, and probably needed to, so it was kind of just all a blessing that I ended up getting pushed back to March of 2018 before I could actually purchase. But yeah, and what I'll say is, for me, I didn't really do anything as far as searching for a realtor that time because I was looking on Redfin and I'd want to look at a property. And so they kind of give you a realtor off of you requesting to look for the property on Redfin. And that's kind of what I wrote with both times. The second guy was just better, I guess. He first deal we put in, it was a little bit under what they asked for, and we got it. You know what I mean? So it was he really was. He was very aggressive. He was calling me and like, shoot, you want to get the deal done, right? He was calling me 11:30 midnight at night on a weekday. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was getting it in, but he made sure I got the crib. Finding somebody that's really aggressive, like not only knows what they're doing, but really, really aggressive. Just more than, cause I'll be honest, he was probably more determined than I was for me to get the house. Cause I was like, I wanted it. I think I got so used to my offers being denied. I was like, I like this one, but if I don't, it's cool. You know what I mean? And no, he made sure I got it, and he was really great. And then now for selling, fortunately, in that time span, my mentor, Tony, y'all know Tony. That's the ad I do at the beginning of the podcast. Tony, he's been on a couple of episodes as well. He became a realtor, and so he's helped me through the selling process, or he's ran everything through the selling process. And I'll be honest, and I'm biased as well, but he's been the best realtor I've had so far. Been great. Like he's been over the top. He came, we were showing the house, and I missed some stuff. He came and cleaned my crib. He just been A1. So that's my boy. So yeah, it's finding a good realtor is very important. He made sure I got a great deal for my house as well. Been baby stepping me when I need to be baby stepped through everything, and it's just been a really cool process. So definitely, I think picking the right realtor is definitely important, and can make the process a lot smoother and less stressful for you when you got a realtor that's really aggressive and really knows what he's talking about. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm going to add 2 points. When you are the buyer, 100% you should have a realtor. Because you're not even paying for it. The seller is.
Exactly.
So, that person working pretty much free from your pockets.
Exactly.
So you should 100% take advantage of that as a buyer. And my other point is, basically what you already touched on is, I can't stress this enough because for some reason people still let it happen or don't understand that realtor works for you.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Whatever you need, it's their job to make it happen.
For sure.
They own your team.
Exactly.
So make sure that they always giving you what you need.
Exactly. No, I agree with that 100%.
And trust me, if you got the right one, a lot of times they gonna do it before you even think about asking for it.
That's what I'm saying. I ain't had to ask Tony for a thing, bruh. He been on point with everything. So
So
I agree.
definitely your own keys.
Yeah, your own keys. I'm telling you, your own keys been on point with that joint for real. Real quick. So I mean, we touched on the HOAs, house insurance. Real quick, I just want to touch on just living in your crib. I mean, you was in your crib for how long? 2 years.
Yeah, I was in there for 2 years.
So just living and kind of maintaining your crib. I just want you to speak on that. Whether it's numbers wise, investing into your crib, or just living, mowing, and cleaning, whatever it is.
So for me, it was a little bit different. I didn't mention this when we went through kind of the whole purchasing process, but for me, I ended up doing a new build.
Oh yeah.
So for me, everything was pretty much new. I mean, the house has a 30-year builder's warranty on it. I guess I'll kind of speak on why I chose to do a new house opposed to doing, what you did. For me, I did it because I could basically get what I wanted and control the costs.
Yeah.
So like, I knew, okay, the base price was $199, and I didn't want to go over like $220 or whatever it was. I can control that price.
Yeah.
And still get what I want in the house. And then if it was certain things I wanted, I could get them later.
Okay.
And then I guess for me, that was one reason why we did it, and then one because it was new. People like new stuff.
Of course.
So I ain't gonna lie about that. And then,
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Do what you want when you poppin'.
I mean, everything was already pretty much updated, so I wouldn't have to move in and worry about, and kind of what I want to touch on too is, like, when you get a house, it's important to have a home inspector because you need it no matter what it is, whether it was new build or, pre-built.
Yeah.
I mean, because you need to make sure everything is up to date. Because once you take over that home ownership, you own it. I mean, it's like when you buy a car and you leave a dealership, you own that car.
Exactly.
You can't go back and say, I need my brakes changed.
Yeah, and real quick, if that's something you should know, but if your realtor doesn't advise you to get an inspection before selling or before purchasing a home, you probably need to find a new realtor as well, because that's kind of one of those go-tos.
Yeah,
Make sure
that's facts.
you got an inspector on deck to make sure you're not getting into a crap house, pretty much. So yeah, go ahead, continue. My fault.
No, you good. So yeah, like, it's important to have an inspection because you need to make sure the electrical is up to date. Depending on what year the house was built, you don't want to have asbestos in the house or any of those other stuff that's basically banned today that we know causes cancer, pretty much, or whatever. And then it's just, you need to track the foundation, the integrity of the home, all these things. The heating and air system.
Yep.
Because these are things that if you catch them, you can put in the contract.
They need to be fixed before you close. Yep.
Yeah, but once you sign them closing documents, it's on you. But for me, to answer your question, maintenance wise, I haven't had a lot of issues. Or like, because the house is under warranty, I can just call and they'll come out. I think like we had an issue maybe with the air conditioner.
Yeah.
And they just had to come out and replace the fan.
Okay.
On the unit outside, but that was just a warranty claim. So for me, it wasn't really a big thing. But another reason why that I didn't mention why I went new construction is because, and we didn't talk about this, but there's a lot of things you got to consider when you're buying a home, like location, the lot size, number of bedrooms, bathrooms. The layout, age of the house, the incentives, the maintenance. Even the age, style, and condition. Yeah. And even the appliances that are in the house.
Yep.
So like, a lot of that was a big consideration for me. So we picked it because, one, we wanted to be in like a growing area, kind of something you already mentioned.
Yep.
And that's one reason why we was able to sell the house after 2 years, because the appreciation skyrocketed because people keep moving down and supply and demand, and then it ended up being a neighborhood that people wanted to be in. Yep. So we was able to capitalize on the demand. So that was one reason why we went for new construction, and another reason was when you new construction, if people don't know how it works, is they start off building houses, and the earlier you get into a new construction house neighborhood, the better, because the price points start off low and they start rising. Okay. After they hit a certain number of houses, the price increases start. Okay. So if I got my house at $200,000, and the same house I got now, they charging a minimum of $220 for somebody to build it. Okay. I've already appreciated.
Yep. That's facts.
So that was one reason why.
Okay. That's smooth. Yeah, new construction is something I kind of looked into. I think I wanted. I guess I felt like, and I haven't been through it, of course. I just felt like the process could be a little bit more complicated, and then a lot of times they were offering like new construction, but then they wanted you to get your mortgage and stuff approved through their banks and stuff like that. So that's what kind of scared me away from new construction as much. Go ahead.
And I can explain that stuff to you, but I would say we could probably do a whole nother episode on just basically new construction.
New construction
versus,
process, yeah.
Yeah, versus
Yeah.
basically an existing property.
Okay, let's say that then. We'll do that
So
later.
yeah, we'll say that one.
We'll say that. But yeah, man, no, I think that's interesting. Yeah, with me, like I kind of explained before, it was all about just finding something simple for me. I didn't want to, dream home. I knew I wanted something with. I always explain. I said I wanted something with plenty of parking spaces, and then a backyard for my dog. Well, I didn't know I have a dog at the time, but I knew I was gonna get a dog as soon as I got a crib, and then somewhere for me to grill. Cause I knew I just wanted to have cookouts like the fam, and so that was like those were like my only like big like. Cause I seen a couple cribs and I was like, I don't like the parking. Look like ain't enough parking here. People can't park down the street. Like I was serious about that stuff, and then like when I bought my crib and like I think it was probably 2 or 3 months within, I had my cookout, and I remember the neighbors like, man, you got the whole city out here. And I was like, nah, man, this is really why I bought a crib, was to do this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, that's why I'm saying with me, I didn't want nothing too crazy. Like I said, enough for me and not too much for me to maintain. Only reason I end up selling is it's just too far away from the city. It's affected me socially. So that's the only reason I'm like, shoot, let me get back to the city. I feel like I lost my like get up and go as much and everything, because once I get home I just be like, shoot, I'm trying to chill. So but yeah, like you said, I guess we'll get into the selling a little bit too. Like you said, I bought in a great I bought in a great area, and I've been able to see it grow in just a year and a half, and fortunately I was able to sell for well over 5 figures. Well, I don't want to say well over 5 figures, but yeah, for a good size figure, good size 5 figure difference when I sold. So it was really good, and something that isn't necessarily normal, I'll say, but fortunate for me to be able to make that much money off of having a home for a year and a half, or living in a home for a year and a half. As far as maintaining, I definitely was mowing my yard at first, so I bought a lawnmower and everything. But besides that, but eventually I found somebody that was cutting the yard for 40, and I just started letting them do that because time got too tight. I think it's my goal, like I said, is it's nothing that's not achievable for people. And to me, it wasn't anything that was too crazy. I didn't have any, even though this was a used home, and I know sometimes that's why people do new construction rather than, already, a used home or whatever. But it's because thinking or possibility of things breaking, et cetera, et cetera. I had additional insurance to cover a lot of my major appliances, such as roofing and AC and heat, things like that. But fortunately, I didn't have anything like that break or anything in my year and a half here. I didn't invest into new kitchen stuff or anything like that. Except I bought a fridge, which wasn't too expensive. But yeah, so besides that, I didn't really have to invest too much into the house. And that's why I really want to communicate as well, because a lot of times people think that they get a house and they lose money pouring into the house. And there are situations like that depending on the house you buy. And I guess that's luck, but to me it's more just kind of prepping. When you get that inspection done, if it's a lot of old stuff, you know what I'm saying? Understanding that, okay, this might break while I'm here, et cetera, et cetera. So preparing for that. Not too much investing as far as buying appliances or anything like that. Most of the stuff I invested in was furniture, so it's stuff I can move from this property to the next property. So yeah, that's the gist of it. With the buying process, like I say, because I want to kind of speak numbers too, to kind of put it in perspective. I recommend, and the bank kind of recommended too, as far as savings wise, to have around 5 figures saved up, and not just for Like the first time, fortunately, I didn't even have to pay closing costs. I was able to get a loan from the bank, pay for closing costs as well. But really, just to prepare yourself once you move in. And everybody always advised me, you don't have to furniture the whole house. Just make sure you have a bed, etc., and everything else will come. But I really wanted to furnish my house, so I used all my money saved up to make sure I had nice furniture and everything in the house. And I didn't have to debate if I could get it and stuff. It was just like, okay, I really want this, and I was able to buy some nice furniture once I moved in. That's what I advise. You don't want to move in and then you can't really do nothing but sleep and eat. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to be comfortable once I moved in as well. So that's the gist of it all for me.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So for me, moving in was a little different. Because we basically went from, similar to you. We went from a 1-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. Mm-hmm. And I think when you first buy your first house, it's like, got to fill the house with furniture, all those different things that you kind of, I guess, seen growing up, or maybe even just was taught one way or another.
Yeah.
But kind of what you touched on, the reality is you want it to feel like a home, but you don't want to use up your free cash flow or whatever to do that at the same time. But one thing I want to mention is kind of what you were touching on. I think one of the biggest things is if people don't have a emergency fund or whatever it may be, that's one of the reasons that you could have that issue of. So one of the reasons I think people are afraid of these big expenses, like the appliance failure or whatever, is because either one, they didn't do the due diligence of the home inspection.
Yes. Okay.
Or
Yeah.
two, they don't have that emergency fund.
Yeah.
That's what that emergency fund would be for.
Exactly. No fact.
Because a lot of times, insurance is to protect us, but nowadays you can get insurance for almost anything. And it's like, do you really want to pay for insurance? I guess insurance people get for the security of knowing if something happens, they got insurance to use. But then, we could have a whole nother conversation on just insurance in itself.
Exactly.
Because a lot of stuff, you don't really need the insurance for. You just need to make sure you got money saved up in case something happens.
Exactly. And
use that money you paying for insurance to invest into something else. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But, to your point, what we did when we moved in, so we moved in, it was new construction, but we didn't pay the builder to give us a fridge or a washer and dryer. We got that ourselves.
Yeah.
And instead of just taking our cash and just buying it, we just did where they had these promotions where it's like, 0% for 12 months.
Yep.
So that's the route we took, which was we had 12 months to pay off the fridge and the washer and dryer.
Okay.
So that was smooth.
That
I've had some friends
smooth.
that have even done the same thing, like with furniture, like Rooms to Go or whoever.
Pay it off in like a year.
Things, but yeah, it'd be like 0% for like 5 years or whatever.
That's love.
Because then one thing one of my neighbors taught me was, which I thought was real smart. She was like, don't buy the furniture unless it's something you gonna keep. Like, don't buy it because it look nice.
True. That's true.
Because styles change.
Exactly.
But like you need, like, if you spend money on good furniture, but you need to buy furniture that's gonna last and that you gonna keep.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah.
And I had never thought about that. But yeah, so that was a good little nugget. But then to get on with basically selling, kind of you've already touched on. For me, the selling, I think, is always the biggest question is always why. And I think that's the first thing the realtors gonna ask you when they talk to you. Oh, why do you want to sell?
No, that's fact.
Yeah, for me, the why, and you touched on it, yours was basically because of the social aspect.
Exactly.
And for me, the why was basically the financial security. So like right now, we have been living off of 2 incomes. But, as I get older and start to learn more, I'm looking at it of, okay, we should live off of 1 income, because then if we got this second income, now that second income can be used to be making even more income.
Exactly.
Because we don't need it to live.
Exactly.
So that second income can be used, for a business or, a second property or whatever it may be. So that's what we kind of at in our financial lives. So that's why we decided to make the change.
Facts. We could get into a whole nother great. That's another great episode, man. just
Yeah,
the
I don't
marriage
understand
life.
that story. But then after you get past why you want to sell it, then you got to start to look at the numbers,
Yep.
which me and you have talked about multiple times. And that's when the numbers get very important because then it is about, okay, what's your price point? What's the house worth? And how much do you owe on the house?
Yep.
And then, like, you got to look at all the expenses. Because now you on the side where you, the seller, are paying for all those expenses.
Yep.
You could end up paying closing costs. You could end up, well, you do end up paying for both realtors, the buyers and the sellers.
Yeah.
So that's up to 6% right there.
Yeah.
And then it can be all the way up to 3% for closing cost assistance.
Okay.
So you gotta understand all those numbers and play the game on the 6% is fixed pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
The closing costs can change. Like when we got offers on our house, somebody wanted full 3% closing cost assistance, and then somebody else didn't want any. And then the reality is, you also gotta understand these people know the game. Like somebody's asking for closing cost assistance. The reality is they don't need that much, but they are asking for basically money that's gonna go towards their down payment.
Exactly. You're trying to like play the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, it's just playing the numbers. So if you really look at the numbers, you can still see. Honestly, all you need to know as a seller is what's your bottom line. What's the minimum you want to make off of this house?
Exactly.
And then just let the numbers play around to what you want to be.
Exactly. No, I agree. That's really, like, through my process, that's what it was. I just had a price that I knew I wanted it for, and ended up getting it for more, and I was just like, cool. And we just went from there. Fortunately, I had already found the place I wanted to move to. They were just waiting for me to sell. You know, I went ahead and tried to secure a place and put in some offers on the place I wanted. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk on a little bit. The whole contingency process, because we both kind of had to go through the same thing, buying a new home contingent on us selling, etc. Kind of just wanted to touch on both real quick, see how yours went, and like I said, they're pretty much the same. Or you can go into explaining kind of what it is, if you want to.
So basically, contingency, for example, me and you both had the same type of contingency where we were looking at buying a new house and currently selling our existing house.
Yep.
And the contingency for that loan, well, you don't have to get a contingency, but I would stress you do, is that, okay, yeah, you're approved for this new mortgage based on the contingency of selling your existing house.
Exactly.
And then what me and you also talked about is, like, if you don't get that contingency, it's basically saying that you are approved for this second mortgage without even selling your first mortgage.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, I'll say for me, my loan was based on contingency. So I can only get this new house for this approved amount if I sold my current home. They wouldn't approve me for two different mortgages. So that was the difference, I guess, for me, is I had to sell my house. And so the tricky kind of thing with that was I found my house beforehand, or my new home beforehand, but the seller wouldn't accept my offer until he saw that my house was on the market and that I had accepted an offer. Until then, he wouldn't even accept my offer. He just kind of held it until he saw that we proved to him that I sold, etc. Because he didn't want to accept, and then it take me too long to find someone to buy the home. So that was kind of like my process. And then fortunately, the person I sold to let me, because they were ready to move in within, it was a cash offer, so they were ready to take the home within 14 days. But fortunately, they let me wait 30 days or however long until I could get into my new place before they would move and take over the home. So that was a fortunate thing for me.
Yeah, and I can kind of speak to what you were talking about. So for me, like, I ended up having a few different offers, and I got a full price offer, but then it was contingent based on the buyer selling their house.
Yeah.
So we basically signed a contingent contract, giving them like 60 days pretty much. And then the 60 days came by, they had a few showings, a few offers, but they didn't accept anything yet. So then we had a decision pretty much to make of extending it another 30 days or just canceling it. So then we decided to extend it another 30 days, and I think within a few days of extending it, they ended up accepting an offer on their house.
Good.
So then what happens is now timing of like the closing dates is always the tricky part. So we would end up closing on the same day that they would close on selling their house, we would also close to sell our house.
Mm-hmm.
So that part right there is always like the closing dates.
Yeah,
Always a tricky part to align as well.
they could be a beast. Yeah, they could be a beast. Like I said, fortunately for me, they kind of ended up working, but it was some push and pull a little bit to try to figure out, who's gonna give me some leeway, who's not trying to give me as much leeway. And then with the property I'm buying, the seller was trying to be kind of stern with some of his time frames because he felt like he had already waited too long for me to, even though it wasn't that long, but waited too long for me to put my house on the market and get an offer. So it was a little, but like I said, man, you gotta have a good realtor. Tony smoothed all that out for the kids, so that was smooth. But yeah, very important to have a good realtor. Just want to re-emphasize that because it makes the process a lot smoother and lets you relax a little bit, But yeah, man, really, 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 really good. Like I said, the purpose, man, of all this was really just to let you guys know how achievable it is. And trying to give you a little bit better insight too, because I know for me, truth a lot of time is in the details. So I wanted to be as detailed, as transparent as possible, to really, let you guys understand how possible it is. Oh yeah, real quick, DJ, how much, if you don't mind sharing, how much was your mortgage that you were paying?
So the mortgage that I was paying was around $1,600.
Okay.
And then my first home. Second home is actually going to be less than that.
Okay. Oh yeah, DJ was big
But,
balling.
Yeah, I was.
But that's also the benefit of two incomes though. At
Yeah,
the
that's
same
the benefit
time, yeah.
of two incomes.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think that was if I would admit it, I think that's a mistake I made. First home was get the house off of two incomes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we could afford it, but I don't think you should ever do that.
Yeah, for sure. And
But I also want to say because the $1,600 though, when you have a mortgage, it's including, depending on what type of loan you got, that's the PMI, the principal and interest, and then all the stuff that goes to your escrow, so your basically your home insurance and taxes.
yeah.
And depending on how your mortgage is set up, it might not include the HOA.
Mm-hmm.
So the HOA might be something separate. So like for me, that price wouldn't include my HOA.
Yeah. So mine, just to bring it in perspective, because I wasn't balling like DJ, it was only me, but mine was right at $1,000 a month for my mortgage, and so that's kind of why I like to stress. I mean, even with the $1,600, because I know people trying to pay $1,600 to stay uptown. Just a perspective though, $1,050 I think was my exact mortgage, and that was only $100 more than what I was paying in rent. So that's why I want to stress just how achievable it is for anybody to be able to purchase a home. I know a lot of people paying $1,000 plus a month right now. You know what I mean? So just a little perspective for you guys and to let you guys know that it's possible for you too. But yeah, I think that's the gist of it all. DJ, any more comments that you have?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, location is key though.
Location is key.
If you in the right area, as long as basically the expense fits in your budget, I mean, you're going to make money off of it.
Exactly.
I mean, naturally, property appreciates over time, but if you're in the right market or the right area, that appreciation is, multiplied by whatever. Like, for example, for me, because there's a lot of people moving down here to, the upstate area in South Carolina, like Greenville, Spartanburg area. Like, I was in an area where, because Greenville, South Carolina is getting so expensive, people were moving outside of that area. And, just in 2 years, property values have gone up, 30,000. So, just knowing that, too, which, your realtor should also be able to help you with that, to kind of see the trends of what's going on in your area.
Yeah, like I said, another benefit of a good realtor. A good realtor is going to let you know kind of how the properties have been jumping around the area and kind of if they have projected numbers, what they project them to be. So, yeah, no. A good realtor is going to make sure you... But you got to do your own research, too. My fault.
Yeah, that's true. You got to do your own research. And one thing I'll add, too, part of that location is also, the school system.
Yeah, that, too.
For instance, we don't have kids, but, you got to look at it from when you go to sell. There's certain, basically, the reason I say location is key is because you can change the house, but you can't change where the house is.
True.
So, you can always fix up a house and make it look better. But if it ain't in a certain school district or whatever it may be, that might not bring certain people to look at the house.
That's fact.
That might not increase the value of the house.
For sure.
So yeah, it's you got to do your own research, like you said. Mm-hmm. And you also need to know, but then you also got to lean on that realtor too.
Yep, got to. But man, you guys, another great episode, man. This one a little bit extensive, especially since I was so short last week. I hope it wasn't too long for you guys. But there's plenty of great information in here, man. Plenty of great information. I want to thank DJ once again for breaking down his house buying and selling experience. It was really great. Man, this is good. And it's exciting, man. Like I said, buying and selling for me was just an exciting experience as well. I'm excited to be moving. I'm actually moving out today as we speak. My house is a mess. But yeah, the fam coming down to help me move out today, man. I'm really excited just with everything, man. And unfortunately, I flipped the DJ thing. My mortgage actually went up a good amount for my new location. But
you don't want to ball it down.
Man, I'm trying to now just play. I did some numbers on it's kind of it's a lot. But I'm excited at the same time, man. I feel like I prepared myself, so I'll be okay. Yeah.
But see, it's not too much if you can afford it, though.
Exactly.
What I mean by afford it is, afford everything that comes with it.
Exactly. So we're going to find out the first 6 months if I made a mistake. Now just play it. But another thing I want to explain, though, too, because I did that with this house, too. And I was like, I never bought a house. If it does get too crazy, I can always sell it or rent it out. And that's kind of where I still am with everything, I guess. It's kind of like, shoot, if things get too crazy, I can rent it out, go get an apartment, whatever it is. So I guess that's why I really enjoy the flexibility of a house. Like, say you get a house and like with this 6 months, you're like, man, it's too expensive. It's so simple, and it may be harder depending on the area. But I mean, they have property management companies that guarantee that they'll find somebody for your property within 2 months. And they take it over, and you can charge the rent what you want it to be, et cetera. And you can go get you a cheapo apartment for half the price of whatever it is. So that's why I really like the flexibility of it all.
That we didn't touch on is, and we'll have to probably do another short, mini episode on it, is there is a certain break-even point that you need to be in a house for before you consider selling it, though, because of all the fees involved. Or if you don't have too much, basically you got what your home is worth and what you owe on the mortgage. And if the delta between the two isn't a certain amount, you end up losing money. So that's something also, because I think people should know the mentality shouldn't be, if something goes south, I'll just put it on the market.
This is true too. I like that, DJ.
Because you can lose money.
That's true.
At the end of the day, it's an investment.
Yes.
And like any investment in life, you make money and you lose money.
Facts. I agree with that.
This is not as risky investment as saying, the stock market.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, you're a little bit more in control of it all. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that. We're gonna have to leave that for the next one. But yeah, that'll be a good thing to break down, DJ. I think that'll be good stuff.
But yeah, I think we close the show by saying owning a house is attainable.
Very attainable, and don't let people discourage you from obtaining a house because of your age. Don't let anybody tell you, "Oh, you sure you want to be there for the rest of your life?" Like a lot of that stuff, you don't need to think you're going to be in a place for an extensive amount of time to buy a home and benefit from it. So, that too. But yeah, once again, thank you guys. Oh, DJ, I'm going to let you shout out your stuff real quick.
Yeah, so you can find me on all social media at Wise, W-I-Z-E, Money, LLC. And you can also find us on the website at wisewize.money.
And of course, you guys know me. You can follow me at Get Right Then Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. Thank you guys again for joining us this week. I hope you guys have a great week, a very productive week. We almost at the end of the year, so I want everybody to continue to be productive, keep finishing the year out strong. Stay blessed, continue towards your success. I'm out. Peace.
My whole life has changed since you came in. I knew back then we'd be more than friends. Didn't say a word to me, but but I saw those eyes. It was no surprise that you hear my line. Tried to act shy at first, but warmed up to me. It was plain to see that you were digging me. Had to break down that wall, put up for best relationships, but fighting for you was worth it, yeah. Since you came into my life, I knew that you would be my wife. You're the reason I believe dreams at night, 'cause you were my love at first sight. Even when we fuss or fight, I know that things will be alright. You're the reason I believe dreams at night, 'cause you were my love at first.